Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. So it is April 13th, Saturday, 2019, and spring is here without a doubt. This is my first video this year, I believe, outdoors. So beautiful outside, I needed to get back into the groove, making videos outside. Behind me is apple tree blossoms. And over here is my garden. Just planted all the little seedlings. So it promises to be a good garden, providing no bizarre weather occurs or things like that. So I have a new book to look at, a controversial topic, a topic that's gotten other people killed, talking about it. There are a lot of strange things going on in the world. And obviously, a lot of people can see that there are a lot of strange things going on with the YouTube videos, even on the mainstream nightly news or newspapers or magazines and TV programming and movies and just general behavior of people in general, and some kind of bizarre behavior of the elite, the government officials, and the wealthy people who control things. A lot of YouTube videos I watch are homesteading, and a lot about agriculture, farming, and of course some videos about the dangers of 5G, microwave, radio wave, and other radio wave transmissions, even the HAARP transmitter, HAARP, that they have about a dozen of them located around the world strategically, north, south, all around the continent, where they can beam huge amounts of energy into the sky and bounce it off the ionosphere over a whole state or a city, and maybe control the jet stream. Everything is electromagnetic anyways, even the human body. So the dangers of these 5G and other electromagnetic energies that are coming online every day, seems like the government is racing to bring this stuff online and hook up the whole system, including computer monitoring systems, our credit cards, our books, our what we watch on TV, things like that, and facial recognition, smart meters in your house, your TV, your electric meter, your car, your iPhone, your iPad, your computer. Oh my. A complete, interconnected beast system to watch everything that we do. Now, the question that comes to my mind is, who's behind all of this? And I kind of believe I understand, because I've been researching since 2005. And it didn't take a genius to realize there were some things wrong even after 2001, and even before that, if you were paying attention, and any kind of a book reader and student. I mean, I realize the universities and colleges and even the grade school, middle school, high school taught you what they wanted you to believe. Back after World War I, the biggest problem or threat to America, as perceived by many people in government, in the universities, everywhere, was something called communism. Now, a lot of people say communism and they start giggling. You're crazy. They don't even know what communism is. Communism was started by the Bolshevik Jewish people when they invaded Russia after World War I. It was espionage. It wasn't a revolution. It wasn't a war. It was espionage. It was a plan, like 9/11. Some Arabs in a cave didn't do it. It was espionage. It was a plan. And the same reason they pulled off World War I and the invasion into Russia after World War I, and 9/11, and World War II, and so many other wars, and so many other assassinations, like President John Kennedy, this had the same reason and the same culprits behind all of it. They go by many names. They have all kinds of organizations. But if you pay attention to the symbols, like the all-seeing eye and the pyramids and the stars and the rising sun, etc., the rays, and you look into these topics, you start to put two and two together. Now, what boggles my mind, quite perplexing to me, is people watch videos like mine and other people's videos, and they kind of get an idea of what's going on, but they dismiss it. They say, well, what can I do? Nothing. I may as well just have a good time and enjoy life in the meantime. And some of my commenters have said, you know, Rick, if people took you serious and other people serious, you know, they might quit their jobs and not go to work, and the whole world might just go into chaos and anarchy, and where would we be? So it's a darned if you do and a darned if you don't situation. You know, it's almost like a freight train is heading towards your town. It's heading towards the train depot. A freight train. And maybe the conductor, God bless him, had a heart attack and died while the train was racing ahead. And nobody else was in the engine car. So it was going to smash into everything that was at the train depot. But let's say it was 50 miles out when this happened, and the computerized system detected it, and they tried to call the train operator, but he wasn't answering, and the train was rushing ahead at 50 miles an hour, a freight train, you know, maybe with 100 cars behind it, moving right along. And so at 50 miles an hour, and it was 50 miles away, so it would arrive at the train depot in 1 hour. So I ask, crazy question, should an attempt be made to stop it before it hits the train depot and wrecks into everything and kills all kinds of people? At least destroys the place if they can evacuate it on time. Or should they just wait until it arrives and do nothing? I realize that's a crazy question because the answer is obvious. You know, we try to do something, you know, take a helicopter and drop somebody onto the train to stop the train, something. Derail the tracks, derail the train, something. So the same question applies to knowing that this freight train is coming at us. To know that it's been going on for, instead of 50 miles, let's call it 100 years. It takes 100 years to get here. And they pulled off World War I and the Russian Revolution, killing over 100 million Christians and other good people, Russians, as some kind of revenge for a couple hundred years of persecution by the Jewish people in Russia. And World War II and 9/11 and destroying all those countries in the Middle East. It's all part of this freight train coming at us, at our country, at our world. And if we wanted to, we might be able to stop it from destroying everything. But again, it boggles my mind. It's perplexing. Nobody wants to try to sound the alarm other than a few people writing books and making videos about this freight train. Of course, it's a metaphor for what's really happening. The pursuit of a global world order using beast computer systems and all kinds of beast weaponized systems and mind control and social conditioning and trying to destroy our religions and bring us some kind of satanic world. As crazy as it sounds. So the book I have to look at, it's kind of crazy. The Talmud Unmasked. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called the Talmud Unmasked. The Talmud is one of the Jewish people's holy books. Talmud. The secret rabbinic teachings concerning Christians. By Reverend I B Pranaitis. Pranaitis. A Roman Catholic priest, master of theology, professor of the Hebrew language at the Imperial Ecclesiastical Academy of the Roman Catholic Church in Old St. Petersburg. 1892, April 13th. Wow, there's a crazy, spooky thing. April 13th, the same day today is. Wow, I didn't plan that. It's the first time I took a close look at the date. April 13th, and this is April 13th, 2019. Wow. So it was 1892. Archbishop, Metropolitan. So anyways, apparently the edition of this book he wrote, the Talmud Unmasked, was written in German or something. Or I guess if it was in the old St. Petersburg church. Italian? I don't know what language it was written in. Maybe if I investigate a little further. Let me read below. Many people today are keenly interested to know what the Jewish Talmud really teaches about Christians, and for an accurate, authentic treatise on the subject. There is no need to go further than the scholarly work of Reverend Father B. Pranaitis, an able Roman Catholic theologist and Hebrologist, so he could read Hebrew, which is the language that the Talmud would have been written in. For many years, they wouldn't allow it to be in writing. They transmitted the information orally. And they didn't want anybody else to know what was in the Talmud. So he was a Hebrologist, formerly on the staff of the Roman Catholic College at the Imperial Academy in Old St. Petersburg. His work is in Hebrew. And bears the imprimatur of his ecclesiastical superior. I guess it bears the approval of his superiors. This is an accurate translation of Father Pranaitis' Latin text, so it was written in Latin. And it is felt that it will be appreciated by those who are interested to know what this great scholar wrote on this important subject from original Talmudic sources. Father Pranaitis was one of those liquidated by the Cheka during the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. It's interesting, I opened up with the Bolshevik Revolution after World War I, and apparently Father Pranaitis was one of those who were liquidated. Like I said, what they do after a revolution, so they call it, it was an invasion. They purge all the intellects, the people who might know stuff they don't want people to know. Many readers will recall that we published a book in 1934 entitled, All These Things So? Are These Things So? Said by many to reveal many things thereto unknown. No reader with an open mind could answer that title question in the negative. So I guess these things are so. Nobody can answer them in the negative. We believe that this present work supplies a sequel to our previous book, and that it proves that such things are so. This work has been carefully translated and edited and will stand the test of scholarship and therefore win the respect of the American people. The intelligence department of the defense forces of every country must supply accurate information if defeat is to be avoided. If defeat is to be avoided. If we are to stop that freight train of globalism from smashing into our world and destroying everything that we know. Our rights, our freedoms, our very lives. This book is sent forth by one who has dared to turn the light on the publicity and other publications. We shall watch with interest the reactions that will follow its appearance and venture to suggest that critics be as careful to document their evidence as it has been done with the facts presented therein. The EN Sanctuary. So like I said, I've been doing my homework, and numerous people have been murdered trying to get this information out. It's not a very safe topic to talk about. So before I start reading from the book, I think I'll throw in a little video. I made some short snippets from other videos to kind of tie in with my discussion here, supplying further evidence. And Lord is Coming website on YouTube has one called Israel to Control the World, Prophecy Fulfillment. So I'll play that video right now, kind of tying in what I'm talking about now.
Let the fake Jews introduce their idea to you.
Today, we here at Klavan on the Culture would like to lay out what we consider the only plan likely to bring tranquility, freedom, and justice to the region. The one-state solution in which the entire Middle East is given to the Jews. That's right. The one-state solution is it would not only help the Palestinians, but would instantly achieve the noblest goals of the so-called Arab Spring. For instance, turning the entire Middle East into one big Israel will secure religious freedom for everyone in the area. Big Israel, big Israel, big Israel, big Israel.
The fake Jews wants to make Jerusalem as their worshipping center of their world religions. Their idea fits very well to the prophecies about the nature of Jerusalem in the end time. Revelation 11:8 says, "Their bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified." The Bible states that the great city is a place where the Lord was crucified. We all know that our Lord Jesus was crucified in the city of Jerusalem. In the Life magazine and the Luke magazines of January 16, 1962, David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, stated, while still in office, his foreseen will on the role played by Jerusalem. He said, "In Jerusalem, the United Nations will build a shrine of the prophets to serve the federate union of all continents. This will be the seat of the Supreme Court of mankind, to settle all controversies among the federate continents, as prophesied by Isaiah."
So as you can see, there are plenty of videos out there, intelligent people trying to warn the rest of us about this grave threat aimed at mankind. And you got to ask yourself, who and what is behind it? This reality we live in is quite bizarre. There are some things we just don't want to believe. So I read this whole thing, 44 pages, that I got online at archive.org. Archive.org. Just put in the Talmud Unmasked. And I read the whole thing. As you can see here, I highlight That's page 3, page 8. Page 19. I just spent the last couple days reading it completely, wondering what I would read for this video. So it's called the Talmud Unmasked. And the part I'm going to read from is part 2 on page 29. Precepts of the Talmud concerning Christians. And I don't want people to be offended. I'm reading from a book written by a Roman Catholic priest in 1892, and he was murdered for it. Liquidated, they called it, during the Russian Revolution, where apparently, according to Jeff Rent's his website, there's a document, they killed up to 100 million people, and many other documents say 66 million Christians and other good people during the Russian Revolution, in between World War I and World War II. A lot of people don't even know about this. More people died in the middle of those two wars than died in World War I or World War II. In the middle of it, they were liquidating up to 100 million people. Some documents and records say 66 million. And the lowest one is 25 million, admitted in a Israeli popular newspaper. You can look this up online and research it for yourself. Particularly, they were killing Russians and Christians, not Jews. The Jews were the ones who had taken over the country through espionage, planned invasion, with some of the culprits being leaders of even the United States and Britain and countries all over the world. More were killed in between. And weirdly enough, prior to World War II, and during the beginning of World War II, during World War II, the United States pretty much gave Russia a blank check for weapons, food, even pianos, and everything they needed. They pretty much controlled the USA from that department. Meanwhile, prior to World War II, Britain had given Germany a blank check to build up its armaments and all of that, its infrastructure, industrial-wise. So isn't that odd? Britain was beefing up Germany. The United States was beefing up Russia while they were killing up to 100 million Christians and other good people and destroying Christian churches. How bizarre is that? Who was behind it? What is behind it? And like I said, I think it's connected to all these horrific things that have been going on in our world. And apparently, one of the Bibles for the Jewish people is the Talmud. And apparently it has some intersections or derived from the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah, of course, is also alchemy, which is many of the Kabbalist wizards, magicians, etc. were accused of sorcery, soothsaying, divination, and witchcraft for a couple thousand years. The ancient mystery religion of Babylon, they call it the Whore of Babylon. So this is their religion, and apparently they hate everybody else. But they like everything else, they turn it around. And they're saying that we people out there, that we non-Jewish people, if we see what I'm about to read, well, we're anti-Semitic. When in reality, it's not us. I mean, just because we're intelligent and we wake up and we can see what's going on and we say, OMG, how can we stop this? This is evil. Well, then you're an anti-Semitic. You can't tell the truth. You can't expose the truth. That's why the Talmud was transmitted orally for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. So they switched it. So my question was, while I was reading this book, and I kept going to myself, oh my, I can't even believe I'm reading this. Anti-Semitic, whatever, racist, prejudice, whatever you want to say. I'm saying, who is the actual hater? The 100 or so countries that accepted the Jewish people into their countries, into their towns, into their cities, into their countrysides, when the Jews were banished from this country or that country. 80, 90, 100 different countries they were exiled, banished from, even from Spain and France and Britain. And it took them hundreds of years to get back in through infiltration into high places, having the king of Britain assassinated, the king of France during the French Revolution assassinated. They used these revolutions. So who is the hater of these revolutionary characters, and what is their religion, and what do they think about you or me? Who is the hater? So when I read this material, please think about this. Who is the hater? You be the judge. I say it's not Brazil or Mexico or Canada or the United States or Germany or Australia or New Zealand, where apparently this infectious disease called globalism, communism, socialism, anti-Christianity philosophy has permeated. I call it a disease. What is a disease? A disease is dis-ease. In other words, we're not having ease. We're not enjoying our life. It's dis-ease. Disease. And apparently it's infiltrating, permeating all the countries all over the planet. It's taken them a long time. A lot of people have a hard time fathoming that. So I'm going to read on here, and I'm going to start out with part 2 on page 29. I read all 44 pages and highlighted the material. I don't know how far I'll get on this video, but pay attention to sentence by sentence. Precepts of the Talmud concerning Christians. From what has been shown thus far, it is clear that, according to the teaching of the Talmud, Christians are idolaters. Sometimes I have a speech impediment on some words. I apologize for that. Worshippers of idols, little statues of some kind of gods or trinkets. Adulterous. And hateful to Jews. So the bottom line, after reading this entire thing, the crust of the matter is, they deny Jesus. They, and of course not all Jews, they back then, the Sanhedrin, convinced the Roman leadership and to execute, crucify Jesus Christ, the prophesied Messiah who was supposed to come. The problem was he wasn't a warrior Messiah to help the Jewish people defeat and conquer and destroy their enemies. He was preaching that we are to love one another. So, and Christianity, since the past 2,000 years, exploded, of course. And so all those people, maybe a third of the world, at least 25% of the world, so 6 billion people, that'd be like 1.5 billion people, will be accused of heresy for worshiping a fake Messiah, according to the secret passage of the Noahide laws in 1991, with President George Bush Sr. and surrounded by a bunch of rabbis signing that document. Look into this. Again, it boggles my mind, and it's perplexing why people don't get concerned about what's going on and the preparations that they clearly are showing us that's going to happen. So from what has been shown thus far, it is clear that according to the teachings of the Talmud, Christians are adulterers, hateful to Jews. As a consequence, every Jew who wishes to please God has a duty to observe all the precepts that were given to the fathers of their race when they were living in the Holy Land concerning the idolatrous Gentiles. So anybody who's not a Jew is a Gentile. Both those who live amongst them and those in nearby countries. A Jew is therefore required to avoid Christians and to do all he can to exterminate them. Chapter 1, Christians must be avoided. How do you feel about that? This is in one of the Jewish people have many books, like the New Testament has the letters or writings from Paul and John and Luke and Matthew, etc., etc. So the Old Testament has numerous books also, but the Jewish people have another set of books, huge, almost like an encyclopedia set, which make up the Talmud. I have all these different names for these books you will hear me talk about. Jews are required to avoid all contact with Christians for 4 reasons. Because they are not worthy to share in the Jewish way of life. Because they are unclean. Because they are adulterers, worship of idols. Because they are murderers. And I read this stuff and I'm going, wait a minute. If these people have been behind World War I and World War II and 9/11 and Russian Revolution, again, it seems like that they've taken everything and they've turned it around. They're calling the rest of us murderers. And I do know from history that there has been some books I've read that the Jews don't fight their own wars. They try to pit 2 countries or whatever, kings, against each other and watch both of them destroy each other while they financing both sides, and they wind up controlling both sides after the war. So throughout their history, they have instigated these wars from behind the scenes. And it's easy to do, you know. You go to the border of one country and you slaughter a bunch of people, and you blame it on that king over there. And then later on, you kill some people on this side of the border, and you tell this king that that king did it for revenge. And bingo, you have a war. And apparently, even with the American Indians, you know, they would massacre some settlers and blame it on the Indians so they could get the land they had and have them moved onto a reservation. A lot of evil goings on in the world, and it would be an interesting pursuit to see what kind of culprits were behind those evil things throughout history. There is a common denominator, and apparently these same peoples were involved with pirates and stuff like that. So you can see what it says here in this book. Jews are required to avoid all contact with Christians for 4 reasons. Because they are not worthy to share in the Jewish way of life, and because they are unclean, and because they are adulterers. I've had a speech impediment since I was in grade school. But ironically, I can sprechen Sie Deutsch, si hablo Español. It's the English language, a couple words there, the consonants that get in my way. I always thought that was weird. I could pick up other languages real easy, but some combinations of English words tongue-tie me. And they got to avoid us because we're murderers also. Again, I believe they turn everything around. So page 30 at the top. Article 1, Christians must be avoided because they are unworthy to share Jewish customs. A Jew by the fact that he belongs to the chosen people, and is circumcised, possesses so great a dignity that no one, not even an angel, can share equality with him. So not even an angel can share equality with the Jew, according to this. In fact, he is considered almost the equal of God, the Jew. He who strikes an Israelite, says Rabbi Chanama, acts as if he slaps the face of God, divine majesty. Wow. Number 2, a Jew is always considered good in spite of certain sins which he may commit, nor can his sins contaminate him any more than dirt contaminates the kernel in a nut and only soils its shell. Number 3, a Jew alone is looked upon as a man. The whole world is his, and all things should serve him, especially animals which have the form of man. So apparently I'm not a Jew, I'm a man, but actually I'm an animal in the form of a man according to this material. It's too much, isn't it? All right, moving down the page here. Thus, on the Sabbath day, Jews celebrate with wine, meats, fish, and all the delicacies made for men. For them, it is a full holiday. They must abstain from all kinds of work and will not lift a finger to do anything that has the appearance of labor or that involves work of any kind. Thus, if there is need to light a fire in winter, to light or blow out a candle, to cook or heat food, or to milk cows, they employ poor Christians to do such work. So they're not allowed to do anything on their Sabbath on Saturday, and they need to employ Christians to do these things for them. Hence, they glory in the fact that they are masters and Christians are their servants, who must minister to them while they rest in their ease. Christian rulers should see to it that this should be stopped, and that others should not minister to Jews in this way on their Sabbath and other festivals. And it must be admitted that we, to the detriment of our Christian liberty, aid them too much in upholding their superstitions to avoid all kinds of work on the Sabbath. And that was in a book, Bertox in Synagogue, JUD, page 382. Next line down that I highlighted. Thus, it is plain that they regard all contact with Christians as contamination and as detracting from their dignity. They are therefore required to keep as far away as possible from all who live and act as Christians do. Next paragraph down. They are diligently warned not to have any contact with Christians, nor to play with their children, nor to eat or drink with them, nor to have anything to do with them socially. And parents tell their children the conversation of Christians is so horrible and vicious that they conceive an implacable hatred of Christians from the very cradle. Wow, they're taught to hate Christians from the cradle. All right, next highlighted portion here. I have all these highlighted portions. A Jew must not salute a Christian. A Jew must not enter the home of a nokri. So they have these different names for us, I'm learning in this book. One of them is nokri, N-O-K-H-R-I. I'm probably saying it wrong. So a Jew must not enter the home of a nokri on a feast day to offer him greetings. However, if he meets him on the street, he may offer him a greeting, but curtly and with head bowed. So I guess he's going to offer you a greeting on the street. He has to do it like this. Hello. curtly. A Jew must not return the greeting of a Christian. This is in the Iradia 148-10. These are these different Kabbalah Jewish books. A Jew must not return the greeting of a Christian by bowing before him. It is good, therefore, to salute him first, so avoid having to answer him back if the Akum salutes him first. So another word they have for us is AKUM, Akum, or Nokari. And they're derogatory terms, by the way. It was in the first chapter. I'm reading chapter 2. Urbanity is therefore not the reason why Jews appear so amiable in bowing down so humbly before Christians. Rabbi Kohana says that when a Jew salutes a Christian, he should say, "Peace to my Lord," but intend this for his own rabbi. For the Tosafot says, "For his heart was turned towards his own rabbi." Number 3, a Jew must not go before a Christian judge. This is in the Chosam Hamaspat, and it says 26-1. And I'm not going to read from where these things come from. It's only 44 pages. You can go on archive.org and look up this book. Talmud Unmasked, 1892, April 13th, strangely enough. A Jew is not permitted to bring his case before an Akum judge, Akum, even if the matter is judged by the decisions of Jewish law, and even if both parties agree to abide by such decision. He who does is so impious and similar to one who culminates in blasphemies and who raises his hand against the law given us by Moses, or the great lawgiver. Haggai says, the Bet-Im has the power to excommunicate such a one until he release his Jewish brother from the hands of the Gentile. A Christian cannot be used as a witness. That's number 4. And the source is in the Chosam Ham 34.19. A Goy, now they call us Goy, Nokai, and Akums, and they're very derogatory terms if you read the first portion of this book. A Goy or a servant is not capable of acting as a witness. A Jew cannot eat Christian food. In Iradia 112-1 it says, the elders forbade the eating of the bread of the Akum, lest we would seem to be familiar with them. And in the Abahar Zohar, another one of their books, the Zohar, 35b, it says, the following things belong to the Goyim are forbidden. The following things belonging to the Goyim are forbidden. Milk, which the Goy takes from a cow, in the absence of a Jew, and also their bread. For fear he might mix the milk or of swine or some other unclean animal with it. So they can't take milk from a Goy, a non-Jew, because they fear that the milk might be contaminated with swine milk if they didn't see it done in the process. I guess that's something to do with being kosher. A Jew must never act in any way like a Christian. It is not permitted to imitate the customs of an Akum, nor act like them, nor is it permitted to wear clothes like the Akum, nor to comb the hair like they do. Neither must Jews build houses that look like temples to the Akum. A-K-U-M. Since, however, it is not possible to observe all these rules in every place, the Hag, H-A-G-A-H, another one of their books, says that they can be overlooked to a certain extent when, for instance, it is to the advantage of the Jew to do so. For example, if a Jew would profit by a trade which requires a certain kind of dress. so they can violate their own laws if it's profitable for them to do so. Article 2. Christians are to be avoided because they are unclean. It is not known how often Jews must wash, purify themselves, or how much they must study to avoid everything which might render them unclean. The Talmud teaches, however, that Christians are people whose touch alone makes them unclean. In the Avodah Zohar 72b, it says, "A certain man was pouring wine from one jar into another by means of a tube, when a goy came along and touched the tube with his hand. As a result, all the wine in both jars had to be thrown away." So even if a non-Jew, a goy, just touched the tube that was transferring wine from one jug to another jug, you have to throw it all away. That's what they think of Christians. Every vessel, therefore, must be washed when it comes into the possession of a Jew from a Christian, although it has never been in use. That's in the Irodia 120-1, it says. And again, I said I wasn't going to cite the sources, so I will sometimes and I won't sometimes. How's that? If a Jew buys a vessel for use as at the table from an ikom, whether it is made of metal, glass, or lead, even if it is new, he must wash it in the milkava, a large basin, or a cistern, which hold 40 quarts of water. All right, Article 3. Jews are to be avoided because they are adulterators, worshiping idols, idolaters. Lest the Jew be the occasion of sin to an idolatrous Christian, according to the precept of Levite X1X, I guess that's 29:14. Do not put a stumbling block before the blind. He must avoid all contact with them on the days when they worship their gods. In the Avodah Zohar 2a, it says, next page. All right, continuing on. Page 32. Remember, on archive.org, just plug in on the search thing, the Talmud Unmasked, and get the free PDF, 44 pages. It's unbelievable material. I'm not giving justice to this at all by the little bit I'm going to read. Some of it's really horrific information. For 3 days before their idolatrous festivals, it is not permitted to buy or sell them anything. So as I said before, I keep seeing the common denominators, and the whole thing is about idolatrous, apparently worshiping or believing in Jesus. It is also forbidden to give or take any help from them, to change any money with them, to pay them back any debts, and allow them to pay back debts. In the Avodah Zohar 78c, the Parush of Maimonides, it says, all the festivals of the followers of Jesus are forbidden, and we must conduct ourselves towards them as we would towards idolaters, worshippers of idols. The first day of the week is their principal feast, and it is therefore forbidden to do business whatsoever with those who believe in Jesus on their Sabbath. We must observe the same rules on their Sabbath as we do on the feast days of idolaters, as the Talmud teaches. Number 2, a Jew must not use anything which pertains to the worship of Christians. In the Irodia 139.1, it says, It is forbidden to have anything to do with idols and everything that is used in their form of worship, whether they made it by the Akum or the Jews. Number 3, it is forbidden to sell to Christians anything connected with their idolatrous worship. So again, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. It's all about we people believing in Jesus. That's important to realize. The Abhadar Zohar 14b, it says, it is always forbidden to sell incense to an idolatrous priest, for it is evident that when he asked for it, he wants it for no other purpose but to offer it before his idol. Anyone, therefore, who would sell it to him sins against the precept which forbids us to place a stumbling block before the blind. It is also forbidden to sell candles to Gentiles for their feast of candles. Candles, however, may be sold to them on other days. Neither is it permitted to sell a chalice to a Gentile. It's like some kind of a glass or container for holding liquid, a chalice. Neither is it permitted to sell a chalice to a Gentile which a Jew has bought after a Goy has broken it and thrown it away. It may only be sold again to a Gentile after it has been completely made over. For after it has been broken just once, it can be used still to hold the wine which is offered in honor to their idol. Then follows the prohibition as to the selling of books to Christian priests, as we have seen above. Even the work of binding such books is forbidden to a Jew. In the Ayaduyah, 139:15, it says, it is forbidden to bind the books of an Akum, with the exceptions of law books. It may be done, however, if refusal to do it should cause enmity, but only after every effort has been made to refuse such work. Likewise, in the Aradiyah 151:1 at the Hagah, Hagah, it is not permitted to sell water to an Akum if it is known that it will be made into a baptismal water. Mention is also made of many other things which is forbidden to sell to Christians, such as cloth, from which a priestly vestments and banners may be made, paper and ink, which may be used for writing books pertaining to their divine worship. It is forbidden to sell or even rent a house to Christians, which will be used by them as a place of worship. Nowadays, however, Jews trade with Christians, especially on Christian feast days, and also sell them houses, knowing full well that certain sacraments will be administered therein, such as baptism, Holy Communion, and extreme unction. The Talmud can give no reason for this, and in the Abahor Zohar 2a Tisaf it says, it is difficult to say by what right Jews nowadays trade with the Goyim on their evil feast days. So that would be Easter or Christmas, etc. For although many of them commit all kinds of lascivious acts and perversions on their feast days in honor of saints, which they do not look upon as gods, yet every week they celebrate the day of Nazarene, Sunday, which has always been forbidden to us. Ben Tanora, however, in his commentary, in the Abahor Zohar 1-2 follows 7b, it says, since while we are in captivity, we cannot live without trading with them. So they consider the situation today as living in captivity. But now that they have their own country, Israel, since 1948, Maybe they're not in captivity and biblical prophecies are about to unfold, with some of which are quite horrific. And we depend upon them for our food, and we must fear them. It is only forbidden to trade with them on the feast days. Furthermore, it is permitted nowadays to trade with them on the actual day of their feast, because the rabbis are convinced that they do not worship their idols just because they trade with us. And what is forbidden in this book must be taken as applying directly to idolatry, worshiping of idols. Although Rabbi Ishmael says it is forbidden to trade with them on 3 days before their feast days, Rabbi Tam, however, contends that the Mishnah only forbids the selling of idols to idolaters, which will be used by them in their worship of idols. Since they rejoice and worship their idols because they obtained the things necessary for their worship, he explains it thus in the Abador Zohar 2a Tosef. No one should wonder at this custom of ours, for although we look upon them as idolaters, worshipping of idols, they can only offer up what they buy for money. Hence, our gain and their joy is not the reason for this prohibition, for they have enough money for these things, even if we did not trade with them. The prohibition does not apply to atheists. So people who do not believe in God at all, none of these prohibitions apply. In the Ayadorah 148-5, it says, it is only permitted to send a gift to the Ekum, that's a non-Jew, Goy, Ekum, Nokarai, different names, quite derogatory, said it in the beginning of this book. You can look it up, A-K-U-M, is one of their feast days if it is known that he does not believe in idols and does not worship them. So even if you're an atheist, they still call you an Ekum, and they can send you a gift or whatever, probably in pursuit of some kind of personal gain from you. Maimonides has the same in the Hilkuth Ekum 9-2. It is also wrong to send a gift to a goy on their feast days, unless it is certain that he does not believe in the worship of Christian idols and does not serve them. Article 4. Christians are to be avoided because they are evil. There is nothing that Jews are more convinced of than the harm which Christians can do to the children of Israel. Because of this, the rulers of the chosen people have always instructed them not to accept any help from Christians, who will always resort to murder and to other crimes wherever they cannot otherwise obtain their evil ends. Thus, a Jew must not employ a Christian as a nurse, or as a teacher for his children, or as a doctor, a barber, or a nurse, an obstetrician, not a nurse. In the Idora Dia 81-7 Hag, it says, a child must not be nursed by a nokrai, N-O-K-H-R-I. You can look that up, another derogatory name for we non-Jews. If an Israelite can be had, for the milk of a nokarith hardens the heart of a child and builds up an evil nature in him. And again, I asked at the beginning of this video, who is the hater? We people, or these people that have been banned from different countries for 2,000 years with these laws? Just saying, you decide. Not as a teacher. In the Ayadiyah 153-1 Hag, it says, a child must not be given to an Akum to learn manners, literature, or the arts, for they will lead him to heresy. Not as a doctor. In the Ayadiyah, I-O-R-E-D-E-A, 2 words, 155-1, it says, when a Jew is wounded in any way, even so gravely that he would have to violate the Sabbath in having a doctor, he must not employ the services of a Christian. The ukum, doctor, who is not known to everyone in the neighborhood, for we must guard against the spilling of blood. Even when it is not known if the patient will live or die, such a doctor must not be allowed to attend him. If, however, he is sure to die, then such a doctor may attend him, since an extra hour of life is not much to lose. If the akum, the non-Jew, insists that a certain medicine is good, you may believe him, but be sure not to buy it from him. There are some who say that this holds only when the akum offer help free, and that it can be accepted every time it is paid for. But it can be taken for granted that they would not harm a Jew just for the sake of matter of money. In the Parchahim, Pecachim 25a, it says, next page, 34, Rabbi Jochanan says medical help can be accepted from all except adulterers, worship of idols, fornicators, and murderers. Not as a barber. In the Iora Dia 156-1 it says, you must not be shaven by an akum, a non-Jew, unless your Jewish friends are with you. There are some who say that it is not permitted to be shaved by an akum, even when others are present, unless you can see yourself in a mirror. This does not refer to the shaving of beards, but only to the locks of hair on the neck. For a Jew who shaves his beard commits 5 sins because of its 5 star-shaped points. So they can't shave their beards because it has 5 shaped points. This is Maimonides of Helkuth Akum 12-5. And not as an obstetrician. In the Abhora Zohar it says, our rabbis have passed it down to us that foreign women must never be allowed to act as a midwife at the birth of a child of Israel, because they are given to the shedding of blood. The women present, but never alone. Rabbi Meir, however, says that it is not allowed even when others are present, for they often crush the soft head of the child with their hand and kill it. And they can do this without being noticed by those who are present. Wow, guess they don't think too well of we people. The next chapter got one heck of a title. Christians must be exterminated. I don't know if you can see it. I can't see with the blinding light. Suffice it to say, page 34, right in the middle. You go to archive.org, look up the Talmud Unmasked, Talmud. Christians must be exterminated. Oh my. Explains a lot, doesn't it? The followers of that man. They don't call Jesus by name. They call him that man. The followers of that man, whose name is taken by the Jews to mean, may his name and memory be blotted out, are not otherwise to be regarded than as people whom it would be good to get rid of. So it would be good to get rid of people who follow that man. They are called Romans and tyrants, who hold the children of Israel captive. And by their destruction, the Jews would be freed from this 4th captivity. So the situation the Jews are in now with Christianity is the Jews' 4th captivity. And they will be freed once we are destroyed. So it says here, Every Jew is therefore bound to do all he can to destroy that impious kingdom of the Edomites, Rome, which rules the whole world. Since, however, it is not always and everywhere possible to effect their extermination of Christians, the Talmud orders that they should be attacked at least indifferently, namely by injuring them in every possible way, and by thus lessening their power, helping towards their ultimate destruction. Whenever it is possible, a Jew should kill a Christian and do so without mercy. And with that said, I think I'll play another video from my list of the different kinds of activities, warfare against mankind, knowing what they think. Dr. Graham Downing, 56 basic income, monitoring us all, and apparently one of the people suggesting that society be changed and all of us have a basic income comes from some professor of the Kabbalah of all things. Oh my.
Isn't it interesting how things are just moving along at the same thing? Suddenly we're watching lots of programs about people being watched. Yeah, we're kind of warmed up to this. Loads of programs about kids being watched, adults being watched, whatever it is. And now and then Amazon Echo comes out, and suddenly, isn't it great? I'm not bothered about having a microphone in my house that's recording everything I say, and is selling it on to third-party people. Can you imagine anyone who is above a certain age, 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, anyone said, I'm going to put a microphone in your house, and you would have gone, you've got to be crazy. Okay, you talk to younger people today, no disrespect to anyone here that is more informed. Isn't it interesting that the head of Apple was really pushing these cars, this whole kind of car automotive technology, and you've got Uber, share your car. Airbnb, share your house. Isn't it interesting how these ideas are coming in? Autonomy requires privacy, and the psychological papers are very clear. You don't have privacy, you've got no autonomy. This way of framing the issue makes sense if you understand privacy solely as a political or legal concept, and its political importance is certainly part of what makes privacy so important. What is private is what is yours alone to control, and without interference from others or the state. But the concept of privacy also matters for another deeper reason. It is intimately connected to what it is to be an autonomous person. The connection between loss of privacy and dehumanization is a well-known and ancient fact. You cannot be persuaded to give up your privacy. This technology is part of doing that. Anyone like this guy? He's calling for universal basic income. He thinks he's got a church, and he's the head of it, no doubt. Here's another guy from the Basic Income Earth Network, just to show you how this social side is changing. We need to create this new connected culture. Everyone's going to be connected. We need to drive us to compete for social contribution. If you understand your history, you know what he's really talking about. To achieve that, many people will need to undergo training. So you haven't got a job, you got a basic income, and now they're going to train you as educators and community organisers to create and maintain a positive social climate. I recommend that a basic income will not come by itself, rather it will be coupled with socio-educational training.
Isn't it interesting, if you were just looking at that picture, that this guy's resume, Michael Laitman, is a professor on ontology, a PhD in philosophy, and Kabbalah. Cybernetics, was the prime disciple of Kabbalah. Kabbalah, the main religion of the Jewish people. Watching everything we do, the passage in secret of Noahide laws.
What are you talking about? To achieve that, many people will need to undergo training. So you haven't got a job, you've got a basic income, and now they're going to train you as educators and community organisers to create and maintain a positive social climate. I recommend that a basic income will not come by itself.
All right, continuing on. So it does look like we're under attack. And a lot of people are aware who controls the world. Secret societies, the banksters, And apparently the Jewish political action committees, the largest political money in Washington, D.C., controlling our politicians, and our politicians are responsible for cooperating with them, bringing wars all around the world, and corporations are involved, and secret societies, and these people who want a global world order. It promises to be a bad day in the near future if we, the people, don't wake up. But get back to the book here, the Talmud Unmasked. Under chapter 2, Christians must be exterminated. And the last sentence I read was, wherever it is possible, a Jew should kill Christians and do so without mercy. Article 1, harm must be done to Christians. A Jew is commanded to harm Christians wherever he can, both indirectly by not helping them in any way, and also directly by wrecking their plans, projects. Neither must he save a Christian who is in danger of death. And of course, a lot of Jewish people here in America are probably oblivious to what the Talmud says. At least I would hope that's the case. And if they knew what was in this material, they would find it abhorrent also. Good must not be done to Christians. In the Zohar 1:25b, it says, those who do good to the Akum, A-K-U-M, will not rise from the dead. Oh boy. At times it is permitted to do good to Christians, but only in order to help Israel, namely for the sake of peace, and to hide hatred of them. Monanamides in the Halkoth Akam X,6 says, needy Gentiles may be helped as well as needy Jews for the sake of peace. In the Iodea 148:12 Hag, H-A-J-A-H, it says, therefore, if you enter a town and find them celebrating a feast, you may pretend to rejoice with them in order to hide your hatred. Those, however, who care about the salvation of their souls should keep away from such celebrations. You should make it known that it is a hateful thing to rejoice with them. You can do so without incurring their enmity. It is not permitted to praise a Christian. In the Abhora Zohar 20a Tosafot, it says, do not say anything in praise of them, lest it be said, how good that goy is. This is page 35. Monanamides in Hilk Akum X-5 adds, moreover, you should seek opportunity to mix with them and find out about their evil doings. In this way they explain the words in Deuteronomy 7-2, thou shalt show no mercy unto them, the Goyim, as cited in the Jamarach. Rabbi Urchi explains this Bible passage as follows. Do not pay them any compliments, for it is forbidden to say how good that goy is. In the Iodea, 151-14, it says, no one is allowed to praise them or to say how good an Ekom is, how much less to praise what they do or to recount anything about them which would redound to their glory. If, however, while praising them you intend to give glory to God, mainly because he has created many comely creatures, then it is allowed to do so. A Jew not allowed to mention the things which Christians use for their idolatrous worship. In the Halkuth Ikum, V12 it says, "It is also forbidden to make mention of the Akum, A-K-U-M, derogatory name for non-Jews, we people. For it is written, Exodus 23:13, and make no mention of other gods. It is also forbidden to make mention of the Akum, for it is written in Exodus," I just said that, "their idols must be spoken of with contempt." In the Iadora 146:15 it says, "Their idols must be destroyed and called by contemptuous names." The Ibidin 147:5 it says, "It is permitted to deride idols. It is forbidden to say to a goy, 'May your God help you,' or 'I hope you will succeed.'" Rabbi Beachy explained the text in Deuteronomy about hating idolatry, worshipping of idols, says, "The scripture teaches us to hate idols and to call them by ignoramus names. Thus, if the name of a church is Beth Galai, House of Magnificence, it should be called Beth Kari, an insignificant house, a pig's house, a latrine. For this word Kari denotes a low-down slum place." So they have to call our churches or whatever a pig's house or a latrine, a low-down slum place. In numerous places, ignoramus names are given by the Jews to Christian things. It will not be out of place to list a few of these names which they give to things and persons which are held holy and dear by Christians as follows. And it does not give me any pleasure to read what I am reading, FYI. But if we do not know what their holy books teach, then how can we be warned? Why in 1991 did the Jewish rabbis, in cahoots with their puppet president, President George Bush Sr., pass the Noahide laws? Why doesn't the public know about that? And the punishment for heresy is beheading. And you can go look it up on the internet, but apparently the governments have purchased 30,000 guillotines back then. And recently there was a press release where extra blades were ordered from Mexico for the guillotines. So apparently they plan on a lot of beheading. Putting two and two together. All right. So some of these nasty ignoramus names they have for things holy to Christians. Jesus is ignoramously called Jeshu, which means, "May his name and memory be blotted out." His proper name in Hebrew is Joshua, which means salvation. So Jesus means salvation. And he was supposed to be the Savior that the prophets said was coming. He was preaching love instead of being the warrior king Savior the Jews wanted to conquer and enslave all of their enemies. So his real name, Jesus, means salvation, but they call him Jicha, which means may his name and memory be blotted out. So we can say with some accuracy, they do hate and deny Jesus. That's a fact. And Jesus did preach we are to love one another. That is not what these people are about. And not all Jewish people. Not all Jewish people are into the Talmud and these Kabbalah type books. Mary, the mother of Jesus, is called Cheria D-U-N-G. Means poop. Excrement, German Dirk. In Hebrew, her name is Miriam. So they really are nasty people, changing the holy names of Christian peoples and things. Christian saints, the word for which in Hebrew, Kiddushim, are called Kedushim. Feminine men, fairies. Women saints are called whores. That's what it says here. Again, I don't like reading this. Sunday is called a day of calamity. Feast of Christmas is called Natal, denoting extermination. Feast of Christmas, denoting extermination. Oh my goodness. Easter is not called by the proper word Paschit, Passover, but Katish, meaning the cutting down, or Kasach, gallows. In other words, crucifying Jesus, hanging Jesus. A Christian church is called Beth Halaphilith, house of prayer, but Beth Halaphite, house of vanity, a house of evil. Oh my, it's a wonderful situation. Not. The next page. The Gospel books, the New Testament, are called Avios Gilean, Book of Iniquity. Christian sacrifices are called dung offerings, poop offerings. In the Jerusalem Talmud, the following occurs. He who sees them, the Mizablim, excreting, sacrificing before their idol, let him say, Exodus 22, he that sacrificed unto an idol shall be utterly destroyed. So going to a Christian church shall be utterly destroyed. Rabbi Ichchai, referring to Numbers 25:3, teaches that Gentiles actually honor God by excreminating before him. So you honor God by going to the bathroom before God. A Christian girl who works for Jews on the Sabbath is called a shak witchcheksel, Sabbath dirt. A Jew is not allowed to give gifts to Christians. Next, section 4. In Halkuth Acom, X5, it says, it is forbidden to give gifts to the Goyim, but it is permitted to give them to a convert who lives among the Jews, for it is said, to the traveler who stops in your cities, give it to him to eat, or sell it to a Gentile. That is, sell it, not give it. So if a non-Jew traveler goes into the city, you can give him something to eat. But if a Christian or a Gentile comes into the city, you got to sell it to him. You can't give it to him. In Ariadia 151:11 it says, it is forbidden to give free gifts to the Acom, with whom a Jew may not treat familiar. The Talmud, however, allows a Jew to give gifts to Gentiles who are known to him and from whom he has a hope of getting something in return. So apparently they can give gifts to non-Jews if they have the hopes of getting something in return. A Jew is forbidden to sell his farm to Christians. In the Ir Dora 334:43 it says, in 24 cases, a Jew must be repudiated, namely, anyone who sells his farm to an Akom must be sent into exile unless he undertakes to make up for all the harm that follows as a consequence of having the Akom live near the Jews. Now I gotta ask, who's racist here? And I do know that it is a fact. In the universities, in the colleges, in the neighborhoods, Jewish parents do not want their children to socialize with non-Jewish teenagers, and absolutely to intermarry. Even in Israel today, if you are married to a non-Jew, it's difficult to get immigration papers and move there, when all of the world's Jews are moving to Israel these days in a program that's been running for the last 100 years called Aliyah, called the Return. The idea 33443, it says, okay, I already read that. It is forbidden to teach a trade to Christians. In the idea 154.2, it says, it is not permitted to teach any trade to an Ukum. Now think about that. Who controls our world right now? Who controls the colleges? Who controls the banks? Who controls the hospitals? Who controls the stock market? Who controls Hollywood? And for people to go to college these days, they wind up owing $20, $30, $40, $50,000. Why is that? A country as rich as the United States, if it weren't for the fact that certain peoples are bilking our government, stealing from our government, to bring about this global world order to the tune of billions and billions, probably $1 trillion or more a year, everybody in the United States could go to college for free. We could all have homes and live really good and help other people all over the world. But these people who control the United States control the world. They have no intention. They have a particular attitude towards the rest of us, and I'm reading in what they say in their holy books. So the idea of 154.2, it says, it is not permitted to teach any trade to the Akum. Okay, next one. Number 2, harm must be done to the work of Christians. Since the Goyim minister to Jews like beasts of burdens, they belong to a Jew together with his life and all his faculties. So they think that we belong to Jews. The life of a Goy and all his physical powers belong to a Jew. A. Roal, Die Poland, page 20. So remember this professor, Catholic priest, Reverend I B Pranaitis, The Secret Rabbinic Teachings Concerning Christians, a Roman Catholic priest, minister of theology, and professor of the Hebrew languages, went through all of these non-English Jewish books to get these bits of information. The life of a Goy and all of his physical powers belong to a Jew. It is an axiom of the rabbis that a Jew may take anything belonging to Christians for any reason whatsoever, even by fraud, nor can such be called robbery, since it is merely taking what belongs to him. In Bada Brata 54b it says, all things pertaining to the Goyim are like a desert. The first person to come along and take them can claim them for his own. This is what they think about we non-Jews. And I do know, since they took over the control of the USA money supply in 1913, prior to World War I, 6 months prior to World War I, they've managed to crash the system about 8 times, bankrupting many American farmers and business owners and property owners and families, 8 times in the last 100 years. And even recently, a couple stock market crashes, they reap in millions and billions, and even 2008, their banks are too big to fail. They were given billions and billions. And believe me, it didn't come out of nowhere. When the Federal Reserve printed that money and gave it to them, it became part of the debt that the people of the USA are responsible for. They just piled on the interest and the principal. And it's an unfathomable amount right now, 17, 18, 25 trillion. And if you add that, the interest to that, it's probably 45, 65, 80 trillion. You know, it's an unimaginable number each citizen of the USA owes. And do you think these people are going to collect? Or are they going to forgive the debts of the Goy, the Nokium, the Akum, as they say here, which are derogatory names? You can go back at the beginning of this document, or go get it online at archive.org, the Talmud Unmasked, and read it for yourself. It's quite horrific. But I had to decide what I wanted to read for this video to maximize the information in this 2-hour video. Christians must not be told if they pay too much to a Jew. In the Choshem Hapachat, saying these names wrong, I'm sure. I don't speak Hebrew. 183.7, it says, if you send a messenger to collect money from an Akum, and the Akum pays too much, the messenger may keep the difference. But if the messenger does not know about it, then you may keep it all for yourself. Nice people. Lost property of Christians must not be returned to them. In the Cholshem Hem 266.1 it says, a Jew may keep anything he finds which belongs to an Akum. For it is written, return to thy brethren what is lost. Deuteronomy 22. For he who returns lost property to Christians sins against the laws by increasing the power of the transgressors of the law. So they say that we are transgressors of the law by believing in Jesus. It is praiseworthy, however, to return lost property if it is done to honor the name of God, namely, if by doing so Christians will praise the Jews and look upon them as honorable people. Christians may be defrauded. In the Baha Kara 113b it says, it is permitted to deceive a goy, a non-Jew. In the Cholshem Hem 156.5 Hagah, H-A-G-A-H, it says, if a Jew is doing good business with the Akum, it is not allowed to other Jews in certain places to come and do business with the same Akum. In other places, however, it is different, where another Jew is allowed to go to the same Akum, a non-Jew, lead him on, and do business with him, and to deceive him, and to take his money. For the wealth of the Akum is to be regarded as common property, and belongs to the first who can get it. There are some, however, who say that this should not be done. In the Choshem Hem 183 Hagah it says, if a Jew is doing business with an Akum, and a fellow Israelite comes along and defrauds the Akum, either by false measure, weight, or number, he must divide his profit with his fellow Israelite, since both had a part in the deal, and also in order to help him along. Number 4, a Jew may pretend he is a Christian to deceive Christians. And I am convinced a lot of these families that are senators and representatives and even presidents of the United States and leaders all over the world have changed their names to Christian-sounding names to be able to deceive us and gain the position they have in the world today with the wealth and the power, and this close to bringing about a global world order, maybe a Hunger Games movie type of reality. I don't want to name any of those names, but even Fritz Springmeier, in his book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati, doing the family tree charts, has shown that many of the presidents of the United States are related to each other, as well as the King of Britain and the King of France and the etc., the royal elite, which have been infiltrated by the Jewish elite many years ago. That's another story for another book review. I've mentioned it before. For example, I'll make one example. During the 1500s, all the Jews were banished from Spain, and they had to flee to Norway, Scotland, Poland, etc. It took them hundreds of years to get back into Spain. The same thing with France and Britain. In the 1600s, they were exiled and banned. They slowly infiltrated the government with corruption and bribery and money, and had a revolution take place where they executed the King of Britain and the King of France, and wound up having high places in those governments again. And of course, here in the United States, we had President John Kennedy, who said in his famous speech, "Secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life." He knew who was behind all this. And I intend to expose them. And of course, he's executed at a Freemasonic plaza, Delaney Plaza, right after that. And the same thing with Abraham Lincoln. He wanted America to print its own money. And of course, he was killed. And the war between the North and the South in the United States was another example of them pitting two parties against each other to kill each other under false reasons, pretenses, so they could gain power and control. And even during the war between the North and the South, General Ulysses Grant, in the Encyclopedia Judaica, English edition, 1973, published in Jerusalem, or Israel, General Ulysses Grant banned the Jews from the Tennessee territories, which included Louisiana and Kentucky, etc. It was a big area. So they've been behind a lot of things, them and the secret societies. And they were even exiled and banned from Italy. The Vatican didn't want them there. But eventually with money, and they know how to make the Vatican go bankrupt, and then they come along with the money and they buy the leaders, the Pope or the presidents or the politicians, and they control everything. Anyways, I'm reading about some of the things they say and think about us, and they're about to have complete control of the world. And even nowadays, they're trying to convince the United States government, you can go look it up on the internet, to start enforcing those secretly passed Noahide laws in 1991, which says that heresy is a crime punishable by beheading. And we're seeing right here what they think of Jesus as idol worship. So heresy, being accused as a heretic, would be punishable by beheading. So they do have a plan. They have not come as far as they've come in the past few hundred years to cease and desist. It looks like they will be moving forward, and things will happen in alignment with the biblical prophecy, regrettably. A Jew may pretend he is a Christian to deceive Christians. In the Iyadiyah 157 the Hag, it says, if a Jew is able to deceive them, the idolaters, by pretending he is a worshiper of the stars, he may do so. So I thought this is kind of crazy. They keep mentioning worshipers of the stars, and all the books I go over, including the Encyclopedia Judaica, says that the Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, worship of the stars, is part of the foundation of their religious beliefs. Divination, Kabbalah, sorcery, witchcraft. They turn everything around. The text is also found in the Vilna edition, 1873. A Jew is allowed to practice usury on Christians. So they're allowed to loan money to Christians and charge interest, and to our country, and create all these wars and problems so that our leaders borrow more money, which we citizens are responsible for. And they do not intend to forgive that debt whatsoever. They think that we're animals, as it says in this book, in the form of man, but really they think we're animals. And I guess, as you just heard me say, they believe everything we own is theirs, and they can take it anytime they want. In the Abhoda Zohar 54a, it says, it is allowed to take usury from the apostates who fall into adultery. The Jews call baptism shkomd, and an apostate baptized Jew a mishjom. In the Iyadiyah, it says, it is permitted, according to the Torah, to lend money to an akim with usury. Some of the elders, however, deny this except in the case of life and death. Nowadays, it is permitted for any reason. All right, the next section. Christians to be harmed in legal matters. A Jew may lie and perjure himself to condemn a Christian. In the Baha Kama 113a, it says, Our teaching is as follows. When a Jew and a Goy come into court, absolve the Jew, if you can, according to the laws of Israel. But to the Gentile law, if you can, according to the laws of Israel. If a Goy wins, a non-Jew, tell him that it is what the laws require. If, however, a Jew can be absolved according to Gentile law, absolve him and say it is due to our laws. If this cannot be done, proceed callously against the Goy, as Rabbi Ishmael advises. Rabbi Akabhai, however, holds that you cannot act fraudulently, lest you profane the name of God and have a Jew committed for perjury. A marginal note, however, explains this qualification of Rabbi Akabha as follows. The name of God is not profane when it is not known by the Goy that the Jew has lied. And further, the Baha Kema 113b, it says, the name of God is not profane when, for example, a Jew lies to a Goy by saying, I gave something to your father, but he is dead. You must return it to me, as long as the Goy does not know that you are lying. A Jew may perjure himself with a clear conscience. In Kaha 1b, page 18, it says, she, the mother of Misnah, said to him, swear by me. And Rabbi Akabah swore with his lips, but in his heart he invalidated his oath. So you can't believe what some of these people say when they swear or testify. They will lie, and they'll swear with their fingers crossed behind their backs. Again, who is the godly one here, and who's the ungodly ones here? A Jew may perjure himself with a clear conscience. Who is the godly one here, and who's the ungodly one here? But I do know, like in Aleister Crowley's book, The Book of the Law, these people who worship Satan actually believe evil is good, and they actually believe good is evil. No kidding. They call people who don't approve of homosexuality, marriage, transgenderism, bisexual, adultery, killing and stealing, Christians. They call those people haters because they deny these people the opportunity to do those things. So it just makes you wonder who these people's God is. And according to the Synagogue of Satan and Aleister Crowley, the commandments that they follow are do as thou wilt. And I think that's why Germany was destroyed twice, World War I and World War II. The Germans were smart people, and they used to ridicule and discipline the Jewish communities in their towns and cities. And of course, that made the Jews hate them even more. So they had to be destroyed. Just like after World War I, after being policed in Russia for 200 years because of the things they were doing, and we're seeing what they think of non-Jews, that would include the Russians back then. They had vengeance on Russia after World War I with the Bolshevik invasion, and they created communism, and they controlled that huge continent, and look how far they've come since then. Control the world, and this is what they think. The Jew may perjure himself with a clear conscience. In Keilah 1b, page 18, she, the mother of Mizmah, said to him, swear to me. And Rabbi Akahah swore with his lips, but his heart he invalidated his oath. A similar text is found in Shalah Borth Hagauth, trying to say these words, by Rabbi Asher 6d. If the magistrate of a city compels Jews to swear that they will not escape from the city, nor take anything out of it, they may swear falsely by saying to themselves that they will not escape today, nor take anything out of the city today. Christians must be harmed in things necessary for life. Jews must spare no means in fighting the tyrants who hold them in this fourth captivity. So the Jews think they're in this fourth captivity. I didn't know that. But I do know they had been taken into captivity at least 2 other times. One at the Egyptians, where Moses supposedly helped them escape that captivity. And then in Babylon, when God, I guess, spoke to King Nebuchadnezzar, saying it wrong, I'm sure. According to Jeremiah in the Old Testament, I made a video on that material. Anyways, he told King Nebuchadnezzar to go down to Jerusalem and destroy the temple and kill the Jews and take the rest of them into captivity for punishment for sacrificing their sons and daughters to the demon god Baal, B-A-A-L. So God had that done. That's the second captivity I knew of. And I guess since they've been dispersed all over the world for the past 200 years, they're saying that is the fourth captivity now. And now that they have obtained the Palestinians' land since World War II, which it took them 2 world wars to do it, and revolutions before that to gain power and control over governments, like the British Revolution and French Revolution, where they had the kings executed and all of the other elite executed. A lot of citizens died and suffered, and they wound up controlling all of the wealth, just like they did in the war between the North and the South of the United States. Who do you think wound up with all those big plantations and properties? They called them carpetbaggers, and it was these Jewish people who were coming down from the North, delivering punishment to the South, which lost the war. Just like after World War I and World War II, they delivered punishment to Germany because Germany lost the war. And it seems like the same peoples were behind World War I, World War II, and all these other wars and revolutions all over the world. And it looks like they're planning on a worldwide revolution right now. They're talking about revolutions in countries all over the planet right now. That it's inevitable and they're going to break out. They're dividing the peoples to conquer them again and again and again. So it seems. A similar text is found in Shabbat Hagagath by Rabbi Asher. Okay, so I already read that. He will not escape today or take anything out of the city today. Christians must be harmed in things necessary for life. Jews must spare no means in fighting the tyrants who hold them in this fourth captivity in order to set themselves free. They must fight Christians with astuteness and do nothing to prevent evil from happening to them. Their sick must not be cared for. Christian women in childbirth must not be helped, nor must they be saved when in danger of death. A Jew must always try to deceive Christians. In the Zohar 1:160a it says, Rabbi Jehuda said to him, Rabbi Chesky, he is to be praised who is able to free himself from the enemies of Israel. And the just are much to be praised who get free from them and fight against them. Rabbi Chesky asked, How must we fight against them? Rabbi Jehuda said, By wise counsel thou shalt war against them. Proverbs chapter 24:6. By what kind of war? The kind of war that every son of man must fight against his enemies, when Jacob used against Esau by deceit and trickery. So they're using deceit and trickery against us. Whenever possible, they must be fought against without ceasing until proper order be restored. Thus it is with satisfaction that I say we should free ourselves from them and rule over them. That's what it says here in the Zohar, one of their holy books. And I made a video on the Zohar, and some commenter ridiculed me and said I was blasphemizing something. And it says they are to rule over us and destroy us. A sick Christian must not be aided. In the Idea 158.1 it says, the Achim are not to be cured, even for money, unless it would incur their enmity. So they don't. It explains a lot of things going on with mercury and vaccines and toxins in the water and the foods and GMOs and so much more, dumping chemicals in the sky, microwave transmissions everywhere, beast computer, artificial intelligence, microwave weapons, laser beam weapons, and so much more. Insiders, Mossad, Israeli agents preparing 911, executing it, and destroying all those countries in the Middle East for plans for a greater Israel to, I guess, be out of their fourth captivity and to rule the world. And part of that is a prophecy of a Messiah, a warrior king from the spiritual realm, God's realm, so they would have us believe, who would be a warrior king and help them destroy all of their enemies. And who are all of their enemies? Says it right here. It's me, it's you, if you're not a Jew. Especially Christians. A Christian woman in childbirth must not be helped. In the Ocham Chaim 330-2 it says, no help is to be given to an Echem woman in labor on the Sabbath, even in a small way, for the Sabbath must not be violated. A Christian in danger of death must not be helped. In the Chos Chem Ham 425-5 it says, if you see a heretic, I guess that would be somebody believing in a false god or having an idol, or a cross, or a picture of Jesus, whatever. If you see a heretic who does not believe in the Torah fall into a well in which there is a ladder, hurry at once and take it away and say to him, I have to go and take my son down from a roof. I will bring the ladder back to you at once. Or something else. Lying. Because he's not bringing the ladder back to the guy who fell in the well. The Katuchi, however, who are not our enemies, who take care of the sheep of the Israelites, are not to be killed directly. But they must not be saved from death. So even the non-Christians are not to be killed directly, but they won't be saved from death. So far what I'm reading, what do you think about these people? Who's the evil one? And anybody who talks about this stuff is an anti-Semite, a Jew hater. And I would say that a lot of Jews are fighting this, like Rabbi Marvin Antelman in his book, 2 books, Volume 1, Volume 2, To Eliminate the Opate. Opate is our belief in Jesus and God, our religion, which gives us comfort. And Benjamin Friedman, his famous speech, if you haven't heard it, please go on the computer and look up Benjamin Friedman's famous speech. He's a famous Jewish man who spoke at a Astoria hotel in New York City and told all. Henry Macau, a Canadian PhD Jewish author, who wrote the book, The Illuminati, The Cult That Hijacked the World. This is all about the same thing. And so many other books I have. In the Iadora it says, an Achim, the Achim, who are not enemies of ours, must not be killed directly. Nevertheless, they must not be saved from danger of death. For example, if you see one of them fall into the sea, do not pull him out unless he promises to give you money. I made a little note on this page when I was reading this. Who is the evil one here? Jews or we the people, we citizens, we non-Jews that they have these weird names for that are secretly meaning very nasty things. You can get this book, the Talmud Unmasked, on archive.org and probably other places on the internet. Or you can buy the book because there's reprints out there. But you can get the free one. Menonimides in Hilkoth Achim X1 it says, do not have any pity on them For it is said, Deuteronomy 7-2, show no mercy unto them. Therefore, if you see an Akum, a non-Jew, in difficulty or drowning, do not go to his help. But if he is in danger of death, do not save him from death. But it is not right to kill him by your own hand, by shoving them into a well, or in some other way, since they are not at war with us. Next one, Article 2. Christians are to be killed. That's what it says in this book. Christians are to be killed. Lastly, the Talmud commands that Christians are to be killed without mercy. It's these people's religions that are part of the Noahide laws that were secretly passed and signed into law by President George Bush Sr. in 1991. You can go online, there are press releases calling on the government of the United States, probably the world, to start enforcing these secretly passed laws. This is not a joke. This is a warning. We're in trouble. A lot of people have been murdered divulging this information in the past. President John Kennedy is one of them. And many others. And I suspect many, maybe billions of other people will die in the next world revolution for these people to bring about their global world order. They control countries all over the world. All kinds of videos, all kinds of people talking about it. Lastly, the Talmud commands that Christians are to be killed without mercy. In the Abhoda Zohar 26b, it says, heretics, traitors, and apostates are to be thrown into a well and not rescued. And in the Choschem Hemeshep, I'm saying the names wrong, some of their holy books, 388:10, it says, a spy is to be killed even in our days, wherever he is found. He may be killed even before he confesses. And even if he admits that he only intended to do harm to somebody, and if the harm which he intended is not very great, it is sufficient to have him condemned to death. He must be warned, however, not to confess to this. But if he impudently says, no, I will confess, then he must be killed, and the sooner the better. But there is no time to warn him. It is not necessarily to do so. There are some who say that a traitor is to be put to death only when it is impossible to get rid of him by mutilating him, that is, by cutting out his tongue and his eyes, and if this can be done, he must not be killed, since he is not any worse than others who persecute us. In the Choschem Hem, again, 388:15, it says, if it can be proved that someone has betrayed Israel 3 times and has given the money of Israelites to the Akum, so if somebody gives money to the non-Jews, a way must be found after prudent consideration to wipe him off the face of the earth. Oh my. Page 40. Even a Christian who is found studying the law of Israel merits death. In the Shehendron 59a, it says, and the Shehendron is the religious, I guess, sort of a government of the Jewish people today, and also back then when they crucified Jesus. That's the organization calling on the United States government to pass legislation making it illegal to talk about Jewish people, boycott Jewish people, say these things. They call it hate speech, anti-Semitism, speaking the truth now. And the Shehendron is trying to encourage President Donald Trump and the government to start enforcing the Noahide laws, this religion of the world, And of course you heard me say what they think about heterics, people who believe in Jesus. Shahandran. Rabbi Jehochanan says, a goy who pries into the law is guilty to death. So anybody who pries into their laws, exposes their laws, is guilty to death. And the author of this book was liquidated when they had the Bolshevik Revolution. Baptized Jews are to be put to death. So even if Jews believe in Jesus and get baptized, they're to be put to death also. I've said that before, that they don't let the Jews stray far from their religious camp. And this has been going on since World War I, World War II. So I suspect during World War I or World War II, the Jews that were killed apparently were killed by the Jews who did not like them, probably Jewish people who believed in Jesus. And so it was obvious to me the banksters and the Illuminati controlled Germany, as well as the banksters and Illuminati controlled Britain, the United States, and Russia. So they controlled all sides of the war. And they had to get rid of the Orthodox, the God-fearing, Jesus-believing Jewish people. So these other people who apparently, according to Revelation in the Bible, in 2.9 and 3.9, are of the synagogue of Satan, and they do not like Christian ethics or family values or laws as taught in the Bible with the Ten Commandments. They keep trying to get the Ten Commandments taken down from city halls and state buildings, even putting up a statue of Satan from the synagogue of Satan. They even put the Archway of Baal in New York and London, and later through UNESCO, the Education and Science Department of the United Nations, they were putting 1,000 archways of Baal all over the world. The demon god that King Nebuchadnezzar was told by God to go down to Jerusalem, destroy the temple, kill the people, take them into captivity, as told in the Old Testament by Jeremiah. I made a video on it, because they were sacrificing their sons and daughters to the demon Baal. And then they're putting this Baal demon in New York and London, and the statue of Satan in front of the Capitol State buildings where they have the Ten Commandments. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. In the Halkuth Echem, X2, it says, these things, supra, are intended for adulterers, people who worship idols. But Israelites also, who lapse from their religion and become Epicureans, are to be killed. And we must persecute them to the end, for they afflict Israel and turn the people from God. So any Jews who stray from their control, like Benjamin Friedman, Henry Mackay, Rabbi Marvin Antelman, Abraham Lincoln, President John Kennedy, Gaddafi in Libya, Saddam Hussein, and so many other presidents and leaders of countries and other people all over the world and peoples. So Jews in Israel who believe in Jews, likely to find a bomb in their mailbox. I wrote that down because when I began my research in 2005, and I have these big thick books of all the comments in the Jerusalem Post. It's like our New York Times or Washington Post. An English edition of the Jerusalem newspaper, the jpost.com. Go look at it, read the comments. But back then it said, if a Jewish person believed in Jesus and had purchased Bibles or even was handing out Bibles or telling other Jews, he would likely find a bomb in his mailbox when he went to check his mail. This is serious business. Renegades who turn to the pleasures of the Echem, non-Jews, and who become contaminated with them by worshiping stars and planets as they do, are to be killed. Most Christians don't worship the stars and planets. As far as I know, it's a popular Jewish thing to be involved in the Kabbalah, astrology, divination, sorcery, witchcraft. So again, they switch everything around. It's supposed to be this way, and they switch it around. Likewise, in Chus Chem Hem 425-5, it says, Jews who become Epicureans, who take to the worship of stars and planets and sin maliciously, also those who eat of the flesh of wounded animals, or who dress in vain clothes, deserve the name of Epicurean. Likewise, those who deny the Torah and the prophets of Israel. The law is that all those should be killed, and those who have the power of life and death should have them killed. And if this cannot be done, they should be led to their death by deceptive measures. So it says right here, those in power should be having these people killed. And here you have the Sanhedrin trying to get the U.S. government and President Donald Trump to start enforcing the Noahide laws. And you can go search that on Yahoo or Google and see all the references. So anyways, I'll play one more surprise video that I feel is appropriate to end this video. And thank you for watching my videos, Rick Miracle Reporting. And I don't get any money or personal benefit other than trying to educate the world that the people who are taking control of the world, or who have control of the world, mean us a lot of harm. We're in danger, clear and present danger. Not to steal a line from a movie, but I guess I just did. Rick Miracle Reporting.
Moving on, along the same theme, there's this headline of completely engineered winter weather in the USA. This report from usatoday.com. Rare April snow whitens Carolinas as nor'easter roars up from East Coast. Exactly the kind of theorizing of engineered winter weather events while much of the planet is incinerating. From that report, unusual April snow covered portions of the Carolinas on Tuesday. The storm will potentially become an offshore bomb cyclone. Cover this at geoengineeringwatch.org. Please look at the radar captures that we have showing the radio frequency spawning and manipulating of this storm. Very clear, very compelling. Please look on the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org under the recent top story sections. Listen carefully to the final statement from this rare Carolina snowstorm report. This hopefully final last blast of winter comes between two warm spells, one that's in temperatures soaring to near 80 degrees last weekend, and another that will bring temperatures up to the 70s. Weather whiplash events, completely unnatural, completely engineered cool downs with patented processes of chemical ice nucleation for weather modification. Again, learn more under the Engineering Winter section of geoengineeringwatch.org. Our formerly thriving biosphere not only faces the consequences of countless forms of anthropogenic or human-caused damage to the environment and the climate system, ecosystems now face increasingly radical weather whiplash scenarios from the ongoing climate engineering assaults. What are the increasingly unprecedented weather extremes doing to the web of life? Consider this new headline report from the UK Guardian and other sources. Still involving the engineered winter cooldowns. Here's the headline. Londoners are stunned as wintry weather hits in spring. Insects have no place to hide from climate change, study warns. This is wreaking havoc in the environment. We've already lost 80+% of Earth's insects. The pollinators are dying by the day. How long will the population stand by and pretend this is normal? We must wake up. We must face this issue. From this report, analysis of 50 years of UK data shows woodlands are not havens while changing emergence times damage nature and farming. Of course, this mainstream report completely omits the climate engineering factor. The report continues. Researchers are increasingly concerned about dramatic drops in populations of insects, which I just stated, which underpin much of nature. In February, it was said that these falls could lead to a catastrophic collapse of nature's ecosystems. There's no